I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about the 6th episode of Taskmaster Series 19, and again, a really great episode. We started off very strong in my opinion with Alex's little bit. As I mentioned in my last video, I am really enjoying all of his little bits he does at the beginning of all the episodes. This time it was the sex bot box set bit and I just thought it was really funny. I just love his silly, ridiculous sense of humour. Of course, we start off with the prize task, and the prize task this time was the thing that is nicest to open, and Alex, continuing his really strong jokes and bits at the beginning, made that really fantastic joke about Greg's fly. I just thought that was really funny again. Just so good. The prize task being the thing that was nicest to open. I think this is quite a good one. Again, it gives people a bit of choice and a bit of variety. They can go in a few different directions with this. Obviously, quite a few people went with jars. So we started off with Rosie, who did bring in a jar of gherkins, and her thing was that she just loves gherkins and also loves being able to open the jar without having to ask her husband. And yeah, I get this, satisfying to open a jar, especially if it's something that you like inside of it. We then saw Matt's prize, and he brought in a pop-up book that was Taskmaster themed, and this was so cool. I really want this. Yeah, this is just such an awesome prize. It's such an awesome item. So yeah, I definitely want that. He is auctioning it. I don't know if that's already passed by now, considering how far behind I am on the episodes. So the auction might be over, but yeah, very tempting. He's auctioning off for charity, which is really cool. Stevie went with a very similar item to Rosie, and she brought in a jar of peppers that she couldn't open. So again, she talked about how much she liked the peppers, but that, yeah, this was a jar that she genuinely had at home that she couldn't open, so she brought it in and Greg opened it instantly, which is really funny. But I quite liked this. I liked that it was something that was like an issue for her and that she turned it into like one of the prizes. I think that's really like a good idea. And I do think one point is kind of unfair. I think would have swapped Rosie's and Stevie's, or given them the same, considering they were like pretty much identical. But I like that Stevie brought hers in and had Greg open it. We then saw Jason's, and he brought in like a dog carrier, but inside were the ashes of his dead dog Turkey, which is such a ridiculous thing to bring in. I don't know whether this is the nicest thing to open. If I was to open a box expecting a dog that was alive and I found the ashes of a dog, I would be very upset and disappointed. But I like his argument and like what Greg said about like this is nice for Jason to open because he gets to like think about his dog and relive memories and things. So I definitely like that, and I think, you know, anytime people bring in like ashes or something really personal like that is going to score quite well. And then we had Fatty's, and she brought in a bra, and again more flirting with Greg, which I've just come to expect at this point. But I liked what she, like, you know, it's kind of like satisfying for her to open, and like there's like, it's like nice in like a lot of different ways. And yeah, I just thought, I love her like running joke about marrying Greg and pursuing Greg, and Greg making that remark that he feels like he's being hunted at this point. It's just brilliant. I think it's so funny. And one thing that I absolutely love about this episode and just kept cracking me up every time it happened was this running joke about Stevie being a sailor just because of her outfit. And like, it is very nautical, but I just think all of the jokes were just absolutely hilarious. And yeah, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. As I said, every single time it just made me laugh. And it was something that stuck in my head afterwards as well. I just thought it was amazing. So on to the first proper task of this episode, and this one was a really difficult one. So this one was to work out what Alex had on the top of his head. And they had to stay below the line, which was 5'6", so I'd be fine. And they could ask any question, like yes or no, but Alex had to answer with his number system, which, spoiler, was basically impossible to work out. I don't know if anybody would have been able to work that out, but I think that's kind of the point of the task, is that it is almost like impossible, and so you've got to think of a different workaround. Like, the point is to find something to get the hat off, not to work out the system, if that makes sense. So we started off seeing Stevie and Rosie's, and they both did quite well. So Stevie obviously tried to work out the number system. She started going like yes and no questions to see like what the numbers would be, and because they were just such random numbers that seemed to have no correlation to each other, obviously was unsuccessful with this, as I would be as well. Rosie, again, tried to work out the system. I did think she was onto something when she said bingo, because it was one of those things where at first, as soon as she said it, I was like, oh, it could be something to do with that. But then, like, second after was like, oh no, that wouldn't be anything. That wouldn't have anything to do with it. But I like that she was trying to think of different things of what the numbers could relate to. Stevie then went exploring and found the periscope in the submarine, which then led to a bit of writing saying behind Greg. So obviously she went behind Greg and found the other periscope. I loved her struggling with the periscope, her saying that pipes were her weakness, just cracked me up. I thought that was really funny. She did have no idea what she was doing with that periscope, but she did still use it, and she used it to actually just knock the hat off to reveal the carrot. So yeah, that was definitely a workaround. Probably not what it was intended to be, but I think as we see later on, probably an easier way than actually trying to use the periscope. So Rosie also just knocked the hat off as well. She did find a grabber to use instead, rather than finding the periscope, and just knocked that off, which I think is definitely the way to go with this task. I think the periscope, as we see later on, was just really, really tricky, but yeah, just literally get the hat off was definitely the way to go. And I really like that Rosie also guessed a hat, because technically that is what's on his head, but yeah, obviously wouldn't get points for that, but you got to try. We then saw Matt and Fatty's. This one was so hilarious. So with Matt, he again tried to work out the system, couldn't do it, and then resulted to just trying to knock off the hat. But instead of finding a long pole or something to knock it off, decided to throw shoes at his head, which was hilarious, especially when we had that really, really funny edit of Fatty saying that she wouldn't throw a shoe at him and then Matt immediately doing it. That was so good. I love it when the editors do something like that. They are really the unsung heroes of Taskmaster. Such a brilliant move. And Alex having sanitary towels in his shoes. Madness. There is an outtake that, because I thought, maybe it was something different, but there was an outtake that showed that it was sanitary towels and that apparently it stops him from getting blisters, which I think is very odd, but I guess it would work. But yeah, that is just, it just absolutely baffled me. I was like, it can't be that, but yeah, apparently it was. Matt also had trouble with the periscope. He was literally looking through the periscope at the carrot and couldn't work out what it was. So this just proves that don't look through the periscope, literally just use it to knock off the hat. It's definitely the best way to do this. Fatia also just knocked the hat off as well, but instead she used a pool cue, which I thought she was going to take his eye out. It the way she was kind of really scraping it off the top of his head, I thought she was going to injure him or hurt him in some way, but it worked. Fatia ended up getting a time of about 13 minutes and Matt was about 14, and Rosie and Stevie were both around 6 minutes, which I think was really, really good. And then we had the best attempt at this task, also the worst attempt at this task, and this was Jason. Jason, oh my goodness, he had a really good idea of sitting on the chair trying to work out the number system. Definitely good, not risking the height thing. But yeah, he was just guessing the most random things. Actually, he wasn't even trying to work out the number system. He was just trying to guess the item. And I feel like he got quite close. He was onto fruits and vegetables. And I think carrot is, probably one of the most well-known vegetable, so I'm very surprised that he didn't accidentally stumble onto that. I don't know whether he had to do a final answer, which obviously he wouldn't have known if Alex had said yes to carrot, if that makes sense. But yeah, it would have been funny if he did stumble onto it and it didn't count, which I think if that had have happened, they would have shown it. But I loved how he guessed lemon a ridiculous number of times, and when the numbers kept going up, that was when I completely gave up any hope of trying to work out the system, because that was just insane that he would say lemon and one time it'd be 35, the next time it'd be 36, and then the next time it'd be 37. That, it was just so difficult to work out what the system was. But I can't believe it was only after I think about 45 minutes that he decided that just randomly guessing items wasn't the best way to go, and then started going around and finding other things. And then the fact that he went into the submarine caravan thing and then saw the periscope but didn't acknowledge that it was anything at all and didn't use it. Luckily, I guess, stumbled across the periscope behind Greg and was able to use that. But again, it couldn't get it to work properly, and yeah, it just wasn't really going anywhere. Like, he was just, like, struggling like Matt and Stevie were. He ended up, like, I do think Alex was making it worse a little bit on purpose, because he did seem to keep moving his head in a way that seemed to not be helpful to Jason. It might have been an accident, but I think Alex did mention at the start of, like, before showing it, that it was like payback for all the time that Jason has, like, thrown stuff at him, or, you know, broken things. So yeah, that was quite funny. But yeah, he did, like, have to really help Jason, I think, at the end, into, like, getting his head in position so that he could see what it was. And he eventually got that it was a carrot after 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is insanity. I just don't understand why he didn't think to knock it off at any point in that 1 hour and 40 minutes. It was just ridiculous. And asking 233 questions. I would love to see the supercut of that, like, just see every question that he asked. That would just be fantastic. I would genuinely sit through the whole 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's just absolutely hilarious, and I think just a fantastic yet terrible attempt at this task. So the actual solution to this was that no was a composite number and yes was a prime number. Again, I would never have got this. I think that was so tricky. But as I mentioned, I don't think that was the point. I think the point was to, like, find a different solution, because that is just ridiculously hard. And I don't think the height thing really mattered. I think it was mainly just to stop people from getting onto, like, a ladder and looking up, because they didn't really police it. I think there was probably times that some people did go slightly above that height. So I like they didn't disqualify people. But as I said, I think it was just to stop them from, like, physically going higher up than Alex. The next task we had was a team task. I absolutely love the Team of Two's team name, which was JV Marzukas. I think that's really funny. And I like that they did create a team name, and they just seemed like they really liked doing the task together, which I love to see. So the team task was to make one of you look like the parent of the others, and they had to make a home video. And this, I think, is really fun. It kind of reminds me of the task they had in series 1, where they had to do, like, a home video, but it was like one of those accident, like, funny videos, which I really enjoyed that one. So it felt a bit like a throwback, and I thought this one was really good as well. I love their random ideas, like Jason wanting to be, like, potty trained, which, like, is a ridiculous idea, but then, like, later on in the episode when we see Rosie teaching Alex how to, like, wipe his bum and stuff, it's just like everybody's just kind of on the same page of wanting to do weird things. We saw the Team of Two's attempt first, and they decided to have Stevie be the father and teaching his daughter Jason how to ride a bike. This is just hilarious. I love that they kind of flipped it and started, instead of doing, like, the obvious, they, like, gender switched it a bit. Jason with a beard pretending to be, like, a 5-year-old girl was really funny, and I think it was quite sweet, like, the teaching them how to ride the bike. I think that is, like, your classic kind of, like, home video, so I think for that it really worked. And then, of course, they had to make it really funny by having Alex watching them and them calling him a pervert and chasing him out of the garden into the traffic. And Alex's line about, like, saying, "Oh, I like the hairy girl," was just hilarious. Like, you would never expect someone to say that, and I think that Alex was just fantastic in this. And I liked that they, like, basically ran out into the traffic. Like, imagine if you were just sat in traffic and Alex Horne and, like, a woman dressed as a man and a man dressed as, like, a 5-year-old girl ran out into the street. You just wouldn't know what was going on. I'd probably have a bit of a breakdown, unless I knew it was Taskmaster related, and then I'd be very excited that I saw it. But yeah, so good. I thought it was really funny. Lots of really good moments in this. I just thought this was quite, like, classic way to go, but then twist it and make it, like, silly and ridiculous, which I love. And I loved Stevie saying it was, like, a snapshot into sexual politics, like, trying to make it more, like, not just, oh, we were being really silly with this. So I like it when the contestants try to defend something or, like, talk something up in that way. Not that this needed defending, because I thought this was absolutely fantastic. We then saw the Team of 3, and I thought they were equally as good, to be honest. I think this was really hard to judge. And they had Matt as the dad and Rosie and Fatia as the bearded daughters, because apparently they needed some sort of family resemblance. So all the women in this were bearded, which is just fantastic. And their thing was it's Christmas morning, and that they have one daughter who's really nice and one daughter who just gets jealous and wants what the other one has. And so they trick her into having a really good present and a really bad present and make it so that she wants the bad present. Very, very funny. I think Matt's character very creepy. It's one of those things that you kind of see maybe, like, at the beginning of, like, a murder documentary or, like, a true crime thing, and it's like This is just weird and creepy, but I thought it was quite funny as well. I think both of them did a fantastic job, and I think this was really difficult for Greg to judge. I personally don't know what I would have done. I might have just taken the easy route and just given them both 5 points, because I think so much effort went into both of them and they were both really good. And yeah, I thought it was really difficult. But Greg gave the team of 3 5 points and the team of 2 4 points, which 1 point between them I think could have gone either way. And I think this is a really good task, as I said, very nostalgic of season 1. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really, really good creative task. Now on to the third task, and this one was absolutely hilarious. So it was to teach the Taskmaster's assistant a lesson he'd never forget. And this, I think, just gave the contestants just free rein to mess with Alex, which is always fun. But I don't think anybody took it too far, I guess. I think this is a really good creative task because it kind of sets out a rough thing they need to do. They need something that teaches him a lesson, but they can do literally whatever they want. So that really gives them the opportunity to go wild, do something silly, do something fun, do something thoughtful. I knew we were in for a treat when we had Matt talking about how he heard that fact about how mildly traumatic events help things stick in your head and that you'll never forget them. So I was like, he's going to do something that is going to traumatise Alex. So we saw Matt and Rosie's attempt first, and Matt's one I thought was just hilarious. So his one was a lesson on memory, and he was dressed as like an old, like Victorian or something school teacher, really reminiscent of Horrible Histories. Like I was watching that and I was like, he knows what he's doing. This is definitely something that I would have seen on Horrible Histories, and potentially like probably a character he has done on Horrible Histories. So yeah, I just adored this one. I did actually quite like his facts as well, like that it wasn't just one thing, like he taught him 2 facts. And he was using like a method of not torture, I don't know, like punishment. So if he got it wrong, Alex would have to dunk his head into ice cold water. And it was like a horn going off as well, like an alarm. And if he got it right, he was also forced to dunk his head. So really, really like emphasizing that traumatic thing. So even if you get it right, you're still punished, which definitely, like if you were a child in school and that happened, you definitely would remember things, or you would kind of shut down and try and erase all memory of that. So yeah, I thought this was really funny. I think the way that Alex even seemed to be a bit like, oh my god, what we're doing, and seemed to be a little bit traumatized, a little bit in pain from like the icy water. Yeah, I think just Matt did such a good job at this one. I think it was so good. As I said, the facts I thought were quite interesting as well. And I think having it facts about memory when the task is something that you'll never forget, I think that's a really good idea as well. We also saw Rosie's, and Rosie was also dressed up as a teacher. I thought her outfit was fantastic as well, and I think she really embodied like a teacher role as well. A very weird teacher in the end, but yeah, she was teaching Alex how to wipe his bottom, and they had like balloons at the back with like on the chair and stuff smeared all over it, which was horrible. Very, very weird, and like as they pointed out, lots of like contradicting things, like, oh, you must wipe it until it's clean, but then every time he looked at it he was called disgusting for looking at it. And yeah, like the end, wiping it on his face, even though it was obviously like chocolate or something, it still looked absolutely disgusting. And I loved her thing, she just got carried away. She was just like, loved messing with him, loved getting into that character and doing this really disgusting thing. And yeah, I just thought it was really funny and something that I never thought I would see. But yeah, I think it was a good attempt at the task. Fatia had a completely different approach, and one that was actually really nice. Out of all the people that you would think would like take advantage and try and torture Alex a little bit or mess with him, she didn't do it, which yeah, I was quite surprised by. And as I said, her thing was actually really sweet. Her thing was teaching him how to Moroccan dance, and him trying to shake the top of his body without moving his hips was really funny that you just couldn't get it at all. I loved the way that she was still very encouraging and patient, but still had that classic attitude of like being done with him and being fed up with him. But yeah, I think like genuinely very encouraging. As Greg pointed out, it was like really messing with her brand, but I think it was really nice, and especially like her cheering him on at the end when he was doing the dance. And I think he actually did a pretty good job, like really good, especially like when you see how much he was struggling at the start to like, as I said, move his like chest without moving his hips. Yeah, I thought this was a really, really good attempt. We then had Stevie's one, and again, such a different attempt as well, and one that is quite like harsh as well, but I think a fantastic attempt. Stevie made Alex write out a fact, which was that the shrimp's heart is located in his head 50 times, but made him write it all over his body. And I thought this was a really fun twist of having to write lines. Like, that is pretty horrible to have to do, and also to write it on your body in, I hope, not permanent marker. He was just absolutely covered in pen. You would think that you'd be able to write it, like, you'd be able to contain it just on your arms and legs, but he was like having to strip off and write it like all over his body. And I think the pen that Stevie chose was quite good as well, because it was quite thick, so it meant that you couldn't write really small, like he had to write big. And I think Alex definitely took this in like really good stride. Like he, really fully committed to this, which was really, really funny. And I like the extra fact as well that we got, that the whale has a leg in its stomach, which never would have known if it wasn't the Taskmaster. And then we saw Jason, and his thing was teaching Alex how to be assertive. And I like the way that he approached this, and I think it was a very fun way of doing this task, which was to like observe him doing something. And it was observing him being very nice to all the crew members, which is always lovely to see. And that was really, really bad according to Jason, and he had to teach him how to be assertive and mean and powerful, and not the nice and accommodating person that Alex is. And I think the addition of that crew member who was struggling with their personal life and like having health issues, and you kind of see him be mean to all the ones before it, and it's like, he's gonna be mean to the one that's struggling. But I think him having to like act horrible to the crew members, even though like he perhaps wasn't actually like taught a fact, like seeing him demonstrate the behaviour, like the changed behaviour kind of in this narrative, shows that he has learned something and he wouldn't forget how to act like this. And so I think it was a very unique way of doing it. I liked a lot of the things that, like the phrases that he was saying, like, they're just things, they're not worthy of anything. And like chucking the suitcase or chucking the bags out the door. Alex really like fully committed to this again, I think was just such a different side of him that we've seen. Obviously not a real side of him, it was just a really funny attempt at this one. I think, as I said, Alex is just fully committed to this, and I think in all of these ones has been such an amazing sport. Like, I know he's used to being messed with and used in tasks, but this task in particular, he's suffered a lot in this one. And as they joked, like saying, look, he's damaging his reputation of being nice, and like this is going to be on the internet forever. So the way Greg scored this, and again, I think this was a really difficult one for Greg to score because I think everybody did so well. He gave 3 points to Stevie, Matt and Rosie, which I guess makes sense. They all had very similar approaches. He then gave 4 points to Jason and 5 points to Fatia. Again, at this one, I think was so tricky. I don't know who my favourite one was. I think maybe Matt, but that's just because I think it really reminds me of Horrible Histories. I think Stevie's one was pretty brutal as well. I think it's really difficult. I don't necessarily disagree with Greg's scoring. I just personally don't know what I would have done on this one. I think everybody just did such a great job. And finally, on to the studio task, and this one was don't blow the last thing off the table. So they had things on the table and they had to take it in turn to blow something off. If they didn't blow anything off the table, they were eliminated, and if they also blew the last thing off, then they were eliminated. And they must have to stay on the spot, couldn't touch the table, all that jazz. This one, at first I was like, how good is this one going to be? Like, perhaps this is a weaker studio task maybe. But no, this one was really entertaining. I think lots of tension, which I'm thoroughly enjoying their studio tasks this season. I think this was really good, and I loved, again, I know I mentioned the sailor jokes at the beginning, but Greg saying like that's the sort of confidence you get in the Navy just absolutely cracked me up. I thought it was hilarious. This one was also surprisingly beautiful as well. Seeing all the feathers fall off the table was really nice, and I think the cameras captured it very, very well. And putting in slow-mo was very nice. There were quite a few tense moments. So Stevie at the start almost blew nothing off, which would have immediately knocked her out as well. And I do think Matt had a pretty difficult go at the one that knocked him out as well. The 2 feathers right on the edge next to each other. He ended up not blowing either of them off, but I think that's a pretty impossible one. It would have been extremely impressive if he managed to just blow one of them off. The second round had pictures of Greg on, and Stevie was knocked out because she accidentally did 2 blows. Just something that you do instinctively. She reacted immediately and was admitted that she was knocked out. Felt quite bad for her on that one. the final round, which was mini umbrellas, and I do like that they did mix it up for each round, and this was Fatia and Jason in the final, and I think it was, again, quite competitive. But yeah, Fatia unfortunately made the mistake, like clearly by accident, that the final two umbrellas were in opposite corners, so it made it really easy for Jason to just blow one of them off, which, yeah, very unfortunate for her, but lucky for Jason because he ended up winning this task. And I loved Alex's remark about when Jason had a go and he said, oh, that was almost 2 breaths. And he like contested and it was like, oh, well, it was 1, which of course is almost 2. So yeah, that was just funny. I like that he was kind of riling Jason up. Jason wins the studio task, but Fatia wins the episode, which is really great to see. It's nice to have other people winning it. I like to see every contestant kind of win an episode, even though it doesn't really mean anything. I think it is just quite nice. So yeah, just Stevie left to win an episode. Overall, I think this episode was really, really strong. Lots of great tasks. I don't think there was a weak task in this episode. And I think just so many hilarious moments, like Jason's 1 hour, 40 minutes at the hat task, and all of the home videos and the teaching tasks. Overall, just a fantastic and hilarious episode. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. It really helps the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with Taskmaster. I'll have some more out for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!